And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to this morning's speaker, Katie Wheeler from Pikes Peak State College. With over a decade of teaching experience, Katie has built her career around strengthening her skills as an educator and supporting fellow faculty. She holds a BA and an MA in communications from the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs and has taught in university, nonprofit, corporate, and liberal arts college settings. Since 2012, she's developed and redesigned courses, integrated HyFlex technology, and applied equity-minded teaching frameworks to create collaborative learning environments. At Pikes Peak State College, Katie has served as a service learning coordinator, HyFlex coordinator, and now director of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, where she leads professional development programs and faculty training. Outside of work, she enjoys writing, reading, hiking Colorado's trails, and spending time with her family. With that, I'll hand things over to Katie as she shares her presentation with us, titled Flipping the Discussion Board.
Well, good morning and welcome to my workshop today. We are looking at flipping the discussion board and specifically exploring ways to help students see the discussion board not as a space where I'm writing essays or I'm very tempted to use an AI tool to write my responses for me, but instead a living learning space. And that's going to be our main focus for today. Some specific objectives that I have is we are going to begin with a framework and understanding how we've been using discussion posts in the past and what they can become. Next, we're going to look at practical ways to infuse our discussion posts and discussion spaces with active learning strategies. And finally, how can we weave technology into this? And more than ever, I am trying to look at that discussion space and my online courses, not as just one way for students to learn about technology, but also to gain the AI literacy skills that they need. I've realized the importance of this, especially last week in Fountain, Colorado. A mother was very worried and very nervous about what was happening to her daughter. So much so that she called the police to arrive at the home and make sure the daughter was okay. Daughter answers the door and says, "It was a practical joke. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry." And the police had to call the mother back and say it was all just a joke. Well, the daughter had sent the mother AI generated photos of someone breaking into the home and sitting on the couch, and that she was very scared. Which tells me that, of course, a new technology comes out and it can be misused, but even more so, are we seeing this technology as an ethical, appropriate, and professional tool that we can use into our futures? So very similar to how we've taught the next generation how to effectively use technology, that's become a part of what we're doing as educators, and it's something we can bring to life even in our discussion boards. I was nervous about weaving those AI tools into my discussion boards initially, and now I have to say it's one of the best things I have ever done. So let's get started with a very practical framework and thinking about how we've approached discussion boards before. And I would like for you to go to your reactions and select an emoji or raise your hand if you can resonate with this. Did you start out your discussion boards where you would give students the prompt for basically an essay? They would write 4 or 5 paragraphs, tell you for sure, yes, I have read the majority of the posts that are up here, and then you find yourself grading papers in that discussion. It's okay if you don't want to respond, but I'm going to go ahead and raise my physical hand. I was one of those individuals when I first started teaching online. It was paragraph after paragraph. I see that thumbs up there, couple of other thumbs up. Yes. So we've been in this boat and we've been in some of these bad habits around online discussions. And to really clarify what we're building from, where we are going next, we are going to play a quick round of bingo. If you head to your reactions, you'll see the annotation tool nearby. And I think on the Zoom session, participants can annotate, correct? Hopefully it's not locked out.
I'm not sure. Is that
I,
something in the settings that I have to do, Katie?
I'm not sure, but I'll tell y'all what, I will put a stamp up here and I want you to raise those digital hands if this bingo card should have a stamp on it. So has anyone had the generic I agree responses? Raise that digital hand if you've had them. Yep, I see it. I'm putting a stamp there. Okay. All right. What about the due date post avalanche? My posts are due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I have had people post at 11:50 and I get everything. Okay. I see some thumbs up for that. I'm putting a stamp there. What about not reading the discussion posts? If you look at your class engagement, oh, those thumbs went up fast. Yep, there we go. Okay. What about off-topic responses? Has anyone had this happen? Very much. Yeah, we've been there. Y'all copying the prompt into AI, pasting the response, and never reading a thing. Who's been in this boat? I'm seeing it. Okay, putting that stamp there. Posting and never replying to others. We've seen that. Super short posts. Seeing those thumbs up. Extra long posts. Got those? Yep. What about those that dance around the point and you say, what did I just read? Has anyone seen? Oh, okay. Yep. There's those thumbs up. We've been here. I've been here. And what I have really struggled with is I do not want that discussion tab in a course learning management system to be the essay space or to be the space where we are writing these paragraphs out, but we're not seeing the learning happening. And I want us to be able to bring that learning to life. And so that's really the goal of flipping the discussion board. And when I started these own practices, I'm now looking forward to grading discussion posts. I kid you not, this afternoon, I am going to be grading their responses to a text bot that I gave them, and they're bringing friendship maintenance strategies to life. I can't wait. This is going to be some fun grading. I never thought I would say that I'm having fun grading. And this starts with a framework that has really helped me to grow as an educator. And it is centered around making sure that I am sparking engagement, making sure that that discussion area isn't for discussions, it isn't for essays. That discussion area is an active learning area. It is there to enhance learning, it is there for students to interact, and I've got to think about it very differently. And so the first thing I have to do is to make sure my posts are detailed enough so students know what they will actually do. With online students, especially, if they do not have you in person to explain how to use an AI tool, it is helpful to have that video there alongside that discussion post to explain what they're doing. Give them a tour of the tool or bot that they might be using and bring it to life for them so they know what they're actually doing. I needed to do this early in the semester. Later on, they've got it. I do not get any questions. Students go in there and use it, and it's been a smooth process. The next thing in my discussion post, though, is making sure each of those prompts are purposeful, but showing students why this matters beyond their grade. When I am teaching public speaking, students will say, I do not need this class. I hate this class. I do not want to be here. But letting them know, we're going to work on informative speaking. We're going to work on persuasive speaking. And here's why. Here's why this skill will truly change your life in the future. So it's okay to despise it now. Try it out, see how you're feeling in a little bit, because here's 3 ways that you're going to use it. The next part of this is making sure there are active engagement strategies. If we ask a student to give us their thoughts on 3 concepts from the chapter, we will get thoughts on 3 concepts from the chapter. But we haven't engaged with those concepts and we haven't brought them to life. And so we've got to look at ways to add game-based learning into that discussion board. We also want to give them a specific type of response architecture. And this means that I tell students what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, but then also the types of responses they should have with one another. And in a way, this is beginning to not entirely AI proof my discussion boards, but it does a lot of AI discouragement. Because if I'm excited about the topic and this is fun and I get to bring my learning to life, I'm not going to lean on an AI tool to do that discussion for me. If an AI tool can write these responses, I'm not asking my students to do enough. I need to be asking them to do more. And the last part of this is really that knowledge application. It's not just a discussion. It's not just getting those citations in there. It's actively bringing together a vibrant learning community. So here's a little bit of what I am talking about and what I have for you here, if I can drop this link in and it will work perfectly fine, I am going to show you how to use AI to come up with some of these flipped discussion posts. So you have got a link in there that will take you over to this Google Doc that I have. And excellent, I'm seeing our anonymous animals being added to it. Perfect. I used Claude to give me some ideas for flipping discussion posts. And the way that we word it is going to be everything. So if I want that knowledge application, I have to show that I'm getting that knowledge application. And here are some of the examples that it has. Read Chapter 7 on corporate social responsibility. Discuss 3 main approaches companies use and respond to 2 classmates' posts. Exciting? Do you want to read that? Yeah. Here, begin to ask AI to give you some of those flipped approaches. And so if I go into Claude, if I go into ChatGPT and I let it know, here's my learning outcome, and here's some of the ideas that I'm looking for, it will give me some of these flipped approaches. And you do not have to be a prompt engineer to be able to do this. I can say, help, I need to flip this discussion post. It's about examining media impact on student behaviors. Come up with something awesome. Now, this is a very simplistic way to do it. For yours, if you already have a chat going, if you have a knowledge base, if you've been talking with your AI channel so it knows you a little bit, it will start to jump in and give more effective responses. But you could even see right now that it is helping me to flip this and think about it in a different way. So think about on the back end how you can utilize AI to flip your discussion board. You are the educator, you are in the driver's seat. You're going to look at whether or not this will enhance learning, but you're not alone as you go throughout this process. So that's that first part of bringing Spark to life and actually using it. How do I spark that student engagement? The other part, though, is always adding a piece to every single discussion post with response instructions. You are going to play through this bot interaction, share your interaction in your first post. Now, the thing that you're doing with other posts is you're going to read the interaction that the student had with their AI bot, and you're going to analyze it. That's where you're going to bring in the theories and concepts. That's where you're going to talk about what different approaches could they take, or how did the conversation go for themselves. And this is a joy to read. This feels more like it does in the classroom or in person than it does if they are just having that pure discussion essay-based board. So give them specific ways to respond every single week. Now it feels that grading this needs to look a little bit different. And I kept having that gut feeling. The rubric that I used to use had 4 levels. It was really detailed, and it included ensuring that they have an in-text APA citation, which I don't require in the classroom during discussions. So why am I requiring that here? Especially if it's not a part of the learning outcome. It had points on making sure that you have everything grammatically sound, which is important. But now I can tell them, hey, are you using Grammarly? Because this is a tool I need you to start using so your writing is much more clear. So I had to really think through what needed to be in my rubric and what did not need to be in my rubric. Make sure that you are approaching a rubric that's effective, but also keeping it simple on your side. As an educator, spend more time reading their content. As an educator, you could spend more time looking at their learning process, especially in that flipped experience. And that is why I really started to use the specifications grading approach. And specifications grading does have a lot behind it. There's a book that you can pick up with the same title that shows how to use specifications grading in different classroom settings. But specifically for discussion posts, I'm looking for 2 key things. Are you advancing the conversation? And are your responses meaningful? And adding those 2 pieces to either you did it or you did not. And that's that specification. It's sort of that pass fail. You are meaningfully contributing or you're not. That has really released me from looking for all of those little key indicators that I had on my list before to instead now looking at, are they learning? Are they aware of their own learning cycle? Are they engaging meaningfully? And the first time I tried the specifications grading, I had read about it in Small Teaching Online by Flower Darby, and I felt terrible. I did not want to do a pass fail. It's not what I had done before. The first time they miss one part of this, it's like, I didn't do well on that discussion post. And I thought that they wouldn't engage again. But what I found is when I had an earlier conversation with them, you advance the discussion, but this wasn't in depth. This wasn't meaningful. You're not responding in a way that shows me that you're learning. I had a different conversation with students, and now it is my favorite approach to grading, because as soon as they see that it's about learning and it's not about getting that grade, it's really changed it up. So something to consider as we flip the discussion board, you could try a different style of grading. Out of curiosity, and feel free to do an emoji reaction, has anyone here tried specifications grading before? Okay, excellent. And if you never have and you've got some questions about it, it looks like you've got some colleagues in here who have used it, and then I'm always here as well. So now that we've got a framework, we've got a foundation, we know that we really want to spark engagement with our students. We want to flip this discussion board to make it interactive. We are going to examine how to use games, case studies, and activities to flip that discussion board. And I am going to start out with the games portion of this. Who loves playing games here? I know, they're fun. They're great. They're great. And I never thought I could use them in the classroom. I love tabletop games. I love playing video games. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if anyone else is out there for some of those tabletop games, but I can really nerd out about a lot of those games. I had no idea, though, that as an educator, I could bring those into the classroom. And I really had absolutely no clue that my students could learn through these games. So it took a moment of pausing and thinking through what Dr. Jane McGonigal had talked about, and the problem solving and the dedication that gamers have can be brought into the classroom. And game-based learning is fascinating and can be brought even into the online setting. So here's some ways to begin playing those games. And early on in the semester, use that discussion board and flip it right away. We're not doing some of the traditional introductions, but we're going to play a round of 2 truths and a lie, or we're going to find 10 things that we have in common. And that breaks them away from even their in-person classes where they might do the similar, introductions that they've had. Or in the past, a lot of online discussions will have share your name, which is important, your degree, which I love. But then after that, it's kind of what else do we share and talk about? Well, start playing a game. Show them early on that this discussion board can look a little bit different. The next slide I'm going to bring up for you is another game. As a communication professional, I do cringe a little bit that this is a text-filled slide, but I have a purpose here. So this is a part of the post that I will put into the discussion board, and my students will play Jeopardy! So they will put up the definition of a concept or a term, or they will put an example of it, and others will go in and guess what the answer is. Tells you a lot about where students are at with the information that you have. They get to play a game and kind of show off what they're learning. And then it's really fun to read through and see the higher levels of interaction when you're using that. So those are those initial ways to introduce students to games that they're playing in the discussion board. The next thing that we can do, and I'm going to introduce an acronym to you, and try this out with your nerd friends because they will get it, but we're going to talk about TTRPGs, or tabletop role-playing games. This is the Dungeons and Dragons. This is Pathfinder. This is a group of friends who have gathered together, and suddenly they are walking through a story and they're using dice and making mathematical calculations. I am not a math person, did not think that would be my thing, but that's what I do. Bringing this into the classroom is a game changer. When students role play, they are stepping into a character. They are no longer just themselves and they can feel a higher level of risk taking. I can explore this world a little bit more. I can explore this problem from a different way. And this means that I can give my students the space to grow and make mistakes, and there's absolutely no stakes in it. So with a tabletop role-playing game, if you're saying, what is that? Where did that come from? What is it all about? We are basically giving students character sheets with specific information on them. Would want to, maybe in a class of 30, give them about 5 character sheets and have different groups take on these characters. In an online course, I usually split them into smaller groups so that they will have one storyteller in the group, and then everyone else will embody one of those characters that they're playing. My conflict styles character sheets will have someone who is the battler. They're the competitive person who is going to make all the bad decisions. And then they have this other person who's the collaborator, who's trying to infuse, let's work together. So it's really interesting to have students embody these different characters. But then it also gives you the chance to give them what Paul Hanstedt calls wicked problems. We want to give students complex and tricky problems that they have to try to solve. And if you think about your classrooms and your disciplines and the types of problems students will be facing in the future, have them work through those in that discussion board. You also want to have some type of storyteller. This might be you or it might be one of the students, but have them drive a script or a story with options that individuals actually have to make. You can also do this in a bot format as well. So I'm going to show you first sort of an easy button to do this. This will take you to a Boodlebox bot. You might need to log in, and you can absolutely create a free account for this one. If you want to make some type of tabletop gaming bot, but you don't want students to log in, P-O-E is a really great one that you can use. And PlayLab is another great AI resource that will help you to create bots that students can use right away. So in this one, if you head to the Tabletop Game Express, this is a bot that will literally put together a tabletop game for you. It will help you to have a script to tell the story, and it will generate some character sheets. This is here so that you can focus on what do I want to teach? How do I want them to work through this versus, okay, now I've got to come up with these characters and I need to give them some sort of rules and guidelines. The next part of this as well is that you can have students roll digital dice or their own dice. And I will tell you what, if you tell students that they get to bring dice to the classroom, you will hear some squeeze from the room because showing off dice is a major part of this subculture. So definitely, if you're working this in or working it in online, you can tell students, feel free to share pictures of your rolls or the dice that you have. Let's try this out and play with it. And what I have for you here is the conflict resolver bot. And I'm going to go ahead and add this into the chat so you can also click on it as well. But this is a bot that is used in an online course. I'm going to show you the background of it and how to build it, but then also the front end of this as well. So I am going back over to Boodlebox here. I'm going into my bot builder tab, and y'all, I definitely have my gateway bot, and now I've created quite a few of these. Only use a couple a semester. If you create them, great, but you might save them and not overdo them with students. But here is this crisis resolver bot that I have. I'm just going to pop this over here so you can see the background of it. I built this by using a bot to help me build it. I did not have to build it all on my own, but in that designing a D&D adventure or table role-playing game adventure document, I was able to walk through and make sure that students had exactly what they need to build this. So I am, you can see, dropping this into the chat window right now so that you do have it. But this will give you some step-by-step instructions to think about what I want a bot to do. How do I want it to walk my students through some type of adventure? The next part of this, though, is actually getting to experience it. So if you're already in there, if you were able to scan the QR code or click on the link, this will take you directly to the bot itself. And if you say, no, I just kind of need to sit back and watch what's going on, I'll show you what the student experience is. This is a link that I will embed into the discussion post. It'll be up top and I'll say, click here to get to your bot and work through your scenario. It's got a little introduction for them and it will start this new chat. It will welcome them right away. And then I get to say, yes, I'm absolutely ready. The next step of this is it will ask me to begin to think about the type of character I'm going to embody here. So this is giving them a real situation that they need to work through. Next, it is giving them a couple of choices of conflict styles that they can choose to use, and it will roll the dice, or you can roll your own dice and give it the rolls. Reading through these interactions is a joy, just to see students who went with the dice to see what happened, or they're rolling their own dice and hopefully not cheating on those rolls either. But the neat part about this is suddenly I have introduced some randomness into this game. I have introduced a factor that happens in the real world. As much as I wish that everything could happen in a crisis the way I want it to happen, that's just not what goes on. And so this is where it just gives some of that randomness. I'm going to be a little bit difficult. I'm going to go with maybe that avoider style just to see what happens. And I'll say option A and roll for me. And here is that next step that the student will see is I happen to roll a 5. The situation got a little tougher for me. And now I've got to react to it and decide what I'm going to do. This will also give a certain score. So it is using this Thomas Kilmann model that I fed to it. I have locked this into the knowledge bank, and that's how it's giving students different advice on what they're doing. To build this was not difficult because I'm able to use a bot that will build a bot for me. And if you joined me yesterday, you saw this. If you're brand new today and you're kind of getting into Boodlebox for the first time, just remember there's always this assisted button that will build up or bring up a bot builder. And then I can go in here and I can build it and ask it to put together a bot for me that I then copy and paste into those instructions. So now I do not have to be an expert at coding. I do not have to be an expert at prompt engineering. I can build an actual interactive scenario that my students can fully experience. So if you were to do this for your own class, start with thinking about what you want the bot to do, how you want those mechanics to come into play, and take advantage of these other bots that will help to build character sheets, scripts for you, and think about how you want this to work with students. It might be more beneficial to have a couple of discussion posts. I usually don't run this in just a week, but I will have students work in smaller groups, maybe with their other character counterparts to figure out how they'll approach the problem. That next week, I remix the groups so they are with a storyteller and they're with a variety of the character sheets. And suddenly they're coming at this problem from all of these different angles. The third week then is them reflecting on this process. So no longer is that discussion post me responding to 2 others and writing an essay, but I'm really bringing it to life. That is role playing in a nutshell, using that flip discussion board process. Out of curiosity, I want to hear if you are going to try to use this and how you're going to use this. So you have got 1 minute to head over to the chat window, type up a quick idea of what you might want to do, and make sure you are giving some emoji feedback to these ideas as they pop up, maybe some 100%ers, some high fives or whatnot, but let's see how we can actually bring this to life. So you've got 1 minute to type up your answer and enter it into the chat window. Okay. I am hoping to see everyone responding in there. Otherwise, I will cry later on this afternoon. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a moment to chat about these ideas that we have here. Students taking on the role of a consultant and making recommendations to business owners and get feedback on this approach. I love it. And Brian, just to model this and what it looks like when you go into a bot builder, if you use Boodlebox or you use some other type of one, you could say, create a bot, and I just got your idea here. This gets me started, and then I can go further and take it and bring it to life and build it into my classroom. So I really, really like that. The Consult Pro Coach, it's already started to work on a description, a greeting, and the instructions for me. I can now copy and paste these either into the bot builder through Boodlebox, through another bot builder of your choice, but this gets you started. Lorraine, I'm looking at that tutor training, and this is what we've been doing at Pikes Peak, and it has been extremely helpful. I'm even taking this idea and using it with my new hire educators to say, you just got this email from a student. Now, what do you do? Or this student is looking at taking these classes. And our tutoring center has vetted some of the policy manuals and the course schedule and whatnot, and it will react to that. So it's really helping in training some of the tutors and advisors with what they're doing. I went to advising there with our tutors as well, helping students to develop their own tutors, running them through different questions. There's just so many great ways that you can use that. I'm a huge fan of using these AI tools for training. Using this with faculty, scenarios for workplace issues, 100% Sam. That is a great way to use it. Learning quality control and lean manufacturing concepts. It takes it out of the textbook. It's no longer just in the textbook or in a slide, but I'm interacting with it. And scenarios for treating patients for nursing and dental hygiene. We just ran a bot in communication and healthcare that was successful, put students through scenarios where they're having those patient interactions. It was a game changer in the discussion that we had. So I want to celebrate what we have in the chat here. Whether you are training your tutors and getting them ready for working with students with different learning styles, you are having students step into the role of a consultant, you want them to learn more about quality control, all of this is a great way to flip that discussion board and bring it to life in a new way. So I really like seeing these, and you could see I could take any of these others and say, create a bot that, and it will go in and start creating it. We as the educators, we as the experts, we are the ones who then step in and we make sure this is effective and it's truly enhancing their learning. So excellent work. You've got some good ideas. The next thing, oh, I like this. I'm looking at this one that just came in. How to teach their peers how to factor a trinomial with a leading coefficient other than 1. I will play through that bot. I don't know how to do that, and now I want to learn how. So if I am doing that with a bot and it's sort of gamified, I'm invested. That's fantastic. And yes, the teaching peer idea, kinesthetic, it's hands-on, it's as active as it gets. And why can't we also do that in online classes as well? So the next thing that you can do with your course learning management system is get some activities in there. This week, we're not just discussing these concepts, but you're building a mind map. You are going to select your favorite character from media. You are going to map out their friendship stages, and you're going to analyze these other stages and see how does it impact our perspectives of friendships in the real world. This is what my students in my online class, this is 100% asynchronous online, worked on, and they jumped in 24 hours in advance. They did not wait for the deadline. I had students putting in their answers Monday and Tuesday of this week, and their first post was not due until Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. When I checked it Wednesday morning, I already had 20 posts in there, and this is a class of 27 students. This works, and it is so cool to see that change just semester after semester. So whether they are scrapbooking, they're building a toolkit, or a virtual tour, there's just so much more that we can do. Mind mapping is a lot of fun, and it starts to teach students how to use tools such as Adobe Express or Canva. I usually use Canva as a go-to because it is free and more readily available, and it's pretty user-friendly. And then to see what they come up with. They're able to take the snipping tool or they could put their PDF in there. And this is what it looks like on my end. We are a desire to learn school. So if you're using Canvas, just think of it as flipped on its side. Or any other course learning management system. But this is our discussion space that we have. And this is what it looks like when students put up their first post. I have put together a mind map. I have built this, and now we can go in and we can discuss it. So it changes that discussion space and makes it more lively, which is really exciting. If you're getting students into Canva or you're using this for the first time with a raising of the digital hand, is anyone here already a Canva fan? Okay, Cheryl is. Brian, you're using it. Listen, you're using it. Okay, if you're brand new to this tool is a lot of fun. It's creative. It can create a lot of different flyers, mind maps, and whatnot. It's a way to have students bring their information to life, but it also appeals to those different learning styles. So I'll have some students who say, I really do want to type this up. That's how I best express my learning. Fantastic. But others who say, I want to record a presentation or I want to create something, they have that ability to do it. They can also use Google Drawing. So this is sort of the next phase of the Jamboard in a different way, but they can add images to this. They can put shapes and Post-it notes up here. And it's just another way that they could share this link with others and bring their learning to life. So that's just another one of those tools that they can use. Scrapbooking can be a ton of fun. It's going to use similar things to, Canva, those tools, Canva and Adobe Express. But now when I'm talking about news and popular culture, students can grab news articles and put them together on a scrapbook page. Google offers vids now too. Liz, I love that. All these tools that we've got, get students in there using these tools as well. I consistently imagine my students getting into the future and delivering their presentations. And we don't have a canned PowerPoint template where they're reading bullet point after bullet point, but instead they say, this is a scrapbook of how we are seeing our customer interactions. Take a look at the statistics that I have and the images that I'm bringing to life. They are more savvy with these tools. What I've also had a lot of fun building with students is coming up with some sort of toolkit that they put together. You're not discussing the theory that we're working with, but you're giving me a toolkit of how I can actually use this. Now you have walked through being in the shoes of a consultant. You have supported a business through the scenario that you did in our role play. The next thing I want you to do is to take chapter 4 and create a practical toolkit you would present in the workplace. We're going to share those toolkits with one another and give some recommendations and feedback. That really flips that discussion board for them. The next thing that I love are virtual tours. And has anyone done a virtual field trip before with their students? Okay, a couple of us have. This is so much fun to do, whether it's an in-person class, hybrid, high flex, online, no matter where it is. It's something that really came out of the pandemic that I've held on to and carried on. In that discussion post, have students do a tour of a museum exhibit. So if you follow this QR code or you follow this link that I have here, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is the Smithsonian exhibit that's looking at cell phone use, and students can tour this from their browser. So it's as though they're actually walking through this exhibit. And as they wander through it, they could take this full tour. This is the part of it that made me most uncomfortable is, y'all, this is a tower of old cell phones. This is what often comes up in the discussion is what are those? But now they have this interactive experience that they can go on and they can start to discuss in that board. This is kinesthetic, it's hands-on. I sincerely wish that I could take my students to the Smithsonian's. They're currently closed, but I wish that I could take them here and actually give them this tour and have them walk through it. But a lot of them have not been to Washington, D.C. It's not familiar to them. We don't have access to this museum, but now we do. Whether they're online, in person, or hybrid, they can have this full experience. And then we can have the experience as well as seeing that the Webster Dictionary is now in a museum. And I don't know if anyone else caught this, but they've got VHS tapes in here. It makes sense. I'm tracking, but wow, it's all there. That's something that comes up in that discussion. And then to have them say, I'm going to connect this theory, this concept to it, it's just a game changer. So if you're thinking about these activities, a mind map, maybe a toolkit, doing a scrapbook, or the virtual tour, which one would you most like to try next semester? Feel free to take a moment to think and then add your answer into the meeting chat here. Ooh, combining the virtual tour with role play to solve a crime in a museum. I'm in. Can I take that class? I want to do this. That is brilliant. So which one will you most use in your class? Cheryl, that's a great question. I have Googled virtual tour lists, and that's usually my go-to to find some of these new ones. I have used a couple of different lists, so I don't have one go-to. That's a really good question. Any other things you're going to try infusing your discussion board with an activity? Virtual tour of a workplace where students will see where they could be working. I love this, Brian. And if you look at some of those major corporations as well, they can take some tours of the spaces that they have. Absolutely glorious. That's great. Virtual tour of a factory to look at the machinery. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Get students thinking about their workspaces in a very realistic way. Hey, if it's online, it's asynchronous. I might feel so disconnected. Now, suddenly I've shared this experience with everyone else in class. Please try this out. Let me know how it goes and keep thinking about this idea as you go into case studies as well. Case studies are an effective way to give students some real world problems. You can give them just this way to explore the decisions they would actually make as well, now that they're equipped with knowledge to navigate the situation. So you could do these in a written format. In fact, I used to really have this scenario presented this way. Y'all, it's another terrible slide. It's got the whole scenario on there. But this is a roommate situation where they're getting into an argument. It's something that a lot of us can resonate with. I'm dealing with some fundamental attribution error here and trying to say no one else is doing their chores. I'm doing all the chores. I can present this and give them that discussion prompt to say, hey, grab some concepts from the chapter, bring them to life. Let's discuss. With more technology now, I'm able to bring this to life even more than I did before. So I might take Padlet and embed that into my course learning management system. Most can do that. They can have it embedded into it with the link. And then students are coming up with solutions in a Padlet. So it's a slightly different space. I can also, of course, and I'm going to say it too many times, create an AI bot. You are actually in this situation with this roommate. You are paired up with two other classmates. Can you resolve this effectively? Can you help Remy out of this situation? And then that response prompt makes the biggest difference. So don't forget that we're giving students guidance on how to respond to one another, and that keeps the discussion going. For case studies, if you haven't done this too much before, you're saying, I need some fresh ideas for case studies, take full advantage of anything that you have in the library. These are some of the common databases that will contain some great case studies that you can adapt and change yourself. Or if you needed to change a case study out, but you didn't have a lot of time, take the case, feed it into something such as Notebook LM and have it design the case for you that students can navigate, or feed it into Boodlebox, ChatGPT, and have it help you build a case study that you can use. You can also, because there's a bot for that. This is a case study builder bot that you can feed your idea into, and it will create a case study based on the time limit that you feed to it. So you've got a ton of support when you're building these case studies. And then think too about how you might share them. YouTube has a collection of video case studies. So you could show a documentary or something you want them to react to. But when you go into YouTube and you add case study to your search, you will find video case studies you could put directly into that discussion forum. You could also, and I'm going to manually click through this so it doesn't play the video, in Notebook LM, and I heard a rumor that y'all have Notebook LM, students are subscribed to it. I am jealous. I am envious. I want that right now. We have our Boodle box and I'm happy, but that Notebook LM is a powerful tool. Powerful for us too, because I can take my case study, feed it to it, and then have it create a video that they watch. I can download this, put this into the discussion post, and now they're watching the case study and reacting to it. Students, oh, I see this. They could do virtual tour options and share them with one another too, Liz. That's a really good idea. So taking advantage of these newer tools that we have, and it does a good job. If you have this in your institutional's library or your local library, Canopy and Films on Demand are also two great databases that will have a lot of case studies that you can use and bring to life for students. So does anyone in here already use case studies, or is this something that you want to try? Just give me that thumbs up if you already use case studies, or raise that digital hand if you say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. Okay, excellent. So we got some folks who will be giving this a try. I am so glad you have Canopy and Films on Demand. They are great to use. And Films on Demand will allow you to put quizzes into them as well. So you can have little quiz breaks that students take to reflect on that case study before they go back to the discussion post and begin to add their ideas. So that is fantastic. Today, my promise to you is to talk about some of those ways that we can flip the discussion board and think about it a little bit differently. So I really want to encourage you to add some game-based learning elements to discussion boards and even to the classroom. Take advantage of AI tools, help it to guide you in creating character sheets, as well as becoming a storyteller and walking students through that experience. Definitely think about different ways to use case studies. We no longer read the case study, but now we can interact with it and bring it to life. Perhaps they read it on their own, they watch a Notebook LM video about it, and then they go into a bot and they have to try to solve it based on the knowledge that they have now. And then activities are fun. They bring that learning to life, and then that discussion space becomes a safe and wonderful, supportive place of belonging where students can truly bring their learning to life. Now, here's my next thing that I have for you. So I'm so glad I'm glad to hear my brain is full of ideas. That's how it should be. Always start small with one thing that you're going to try out, then add on that next small thing. That's not advice from me. That comes from James Lang and Flower Darby, and I live by it. I get a lot of great ideas, and I keep a teaching notebook to write them down and kind of park them for later. That's awesome. What questions do you have right now? Think of one question from this workshop that you say, this is the question that I'm leaving with, or a question I want you to answer, Katie. So take just a moment to think about that question. And then when you're ready, feel free to raise your digital hand if you would like to share that question out loud, or you can put it into the chat window. This is a really great question. So from my experience as an instructor, what kind of help or infrastructure from IT or instructional design teams would most empower faculty to actually implement these creative, tech-enhanced discussion ideas instead of just hearing about them? I love this question. This is part of what I do through my CETL work. And if you do have some type of Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, that is a go-to for the trainings and getting folks into this. We have found that having workshops, having one-on-one training and recording everything asynchronously can help people get trained on it. Especially sometimes we don't know where the button is in our course learning management system, and it can be helpful to have that go-to. The course learning designers, having them partner with educators that are using these tools so that when that question comes up, they're not just talking about the tech side of it, but they're also talking about the practical use in the classroom. That's what makes the biggest difference in the world. You can tell me that I can insert a link, but tell me then how to connect it to my learning outcomes and then to bring it to life. How do I manage the teaching portion of it? How do I grade it afterward? That's a really good question. Any other questions right now? What are the challenges from a student viewpoint on accessing third-party applications outside of their native LMS? Love this question. As much as possible, I want these applications embedded into our learning management systems. I would argue, and I guess Brightspace and Canvas can come after me if they really want to, but they're not doing enough to get these apps integrated into their tools. We want more active learning strategies, and they are limited on making sure we can do that. So I try to find as many that are as embedded as possible, or I'm always using the same app. So I let students know in advance that we will be using Boodlebox and Padlet. I have them log into it with no stakes. This isn't graded. Get in there and try it so that later when it is graded, they've already had experience with it. I try not to use more than 2 apps. I think it's just too much and they might be overwhelmed. And if you happen to have a textbook that already takes them out of that system, probably only use one other app or see if that Cengage or McGraw-Hill has some tools built in there that they could use. So that's a really good question. If your campus subscribes to something like you do with Google Notebook LM, try to utilize that as much as possible or use one AI tool that they could really get invested in. These apps work amazing on cell phones. Y'all, my students will be on Boodlebox in the classroom. They will be able to scan the QR code or they will use the link to get in there and use it. Padlet works really well from their mobile phones. Students will have phones in the classroom. The only way that I have students not use phones is this last week I bribed them with Halloween candy. But I have them using their phones so much that they are learning devices in the classroom. So I will not use an app if it can't be used on a mobile device. And I will not use an app if it has too many barriers. If I have to click more than twice to get to the app, I'm not going to do it. A student isn't going to do it. Really great questions. We got 2 minutes left. So I think I need to turn this back to our host, but I really want to thank you for having me here for the past 2 days. It has been a joy to present to TMCC and to be invited back to speak. Thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here and to share a lot of this.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much, Katie, again, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Katie. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Thank you,
great
Katie.
weekend, y'all.